Hi guys, this is the lecture for Chapter 4, Theatrical Genres, and again, I just wanted to go over a few basic points to supplement the PowerPoint lecture that you'll be flipping through. So the main thing to know about genres, genre comes from the French word meaning type or category, and when we talk about the playwright creating a point of view for a play, it is that point of view that determines what the genre of the play is or what the type of play is. The two most well-known and oldest genres are, of course, tragedy and comedy. And I just want to discuss a couple things briefly about tragedy. You have traditional tragedy and modern tragedy. The main differences between the two is that traditional tragedy generally deals with heroic characters, extraordinary characters, people of stature. Traditional tragedy was generally written in verse, and these characters are faced with this tragic fate where the situation is irreversible and there is no way out. And modern tragedy has a lot of these same qualities, but in general, the characters are more representative or characters that we can relate to. And then it's generally not written in verse anymore as well. So modern tragedy begins in the late 19th century. In terms of comedy, one thing that I love, a quote about comedy, is that it can be a ridiculous person in a normal world or a normal person in a ridiculous world. So there's something in the story and in the character and in the setting that sets off that imbalance, which makes it funny. The other quote that I love is that when you think of tragedy, tragedy is meant to make people feel emotions, and comedy is meant to make people think. And you don't often think about that in terms of comedy. You think about escaping or laughing and having fun. But a lot of types of comedy really do make you think a little bit about the world around you. And in the play, they discuss a different types of comedy. So go through the terms and make sure you understand each of those things, like farce, burlesque, satire, domestic comedy, comedy of manners, comedy of ideas. In addition to tragedy and comedy, we also have the genre known as tragicomedy, which is a blend of the two. So it's really, don't think of it in terms of a tragedy that maybe has a funny scene or a comedy that maybe gets deep in certain moments, but tragicomedy really is a melding of the two genres. So the father of traditional tragicomedy is Chekhov. So if you know any Chekhov plays, there's sort of those kinds of plays where you're watching a scene and you don't quite know if you should be laughing at it or if you should be crying at it. There's something tragic about it, but something very relatable and funny about it as well. Some of the Shakespeare tragicomedies are what people often consider Shakespeare's problem plays because people don't know what to do with them. Plays like Measure for Measure and All's Well That Ends Well. Some other genres that the book discusses are heroic drama. Think of this as sort of an epic story that has a lot of elements of tragedy, but in general, heroic dramas have a happy ending. So everybody doesn't die in the end. There's some sort of lesson that's learned and it ends in a happy ending, even though all of these tragic events may have led it to that ending. Melodrama you can compare to things like soap operas or superhero movies where there's a very clear hero and villain. The characters are almost like stock characters. They're very clear in who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And a lot of times melodrama has that lovely musical underscore. Think about the villain tying the poor damsel in distress to the train tracks and the hero comes and gets her just in time. That's a melodrama. Domestic drama and domestic comedy are just what it sounds like. They deal with the family, they deal with lower to middle class. So certain playwrights that are associated with domestic drama are playwrights like Arthur Miller, Tennessee Williams, August Wilson, where you're really dealing with family stories and family situations. So again, as in chapter 3, with chapter 4, look at the end of the chapter and go through those terms and make sure you understand those. And email me or contact me if you have any questions. Good luck on the quiz and enjoy doing the discussion board.